Today we're sharing all the financial decisions that we got right in order to retire early.
We retired when I was in my 30s and Stephanie was in her 40s.
Stay with us until the end because we're going to be sharing the one financial decision that had the biggest impact on our net worth.
If you've been following our story, welcome back for yet another episode. But if you're new to our channel, I'm Gillian.
And I'm Stephanie. We're a couple who saved and invested our way to financial independence and are now traveling full-time. After almost 4 months of sheltering in place in Toronto, we are finally back on the road again and are coming to you from our Airbnb in Athens, Greece. And if you want the whole tour of our new apartment, then be sure to come back for our cost of living video, which comes out in a few weeks.
Today we're sharing our top 7 financial decisions, the ones that helped us get to financial independence and retire early.
So these include both big decisions and small decisions. What they all have in common is they all had a big impact on our ability to grow our wealth over the long term.
Of course, we didn't get everything right. We have made a lot of mistakes along the way. So in next week's video, we'll be sharing with you our most significant financial blunders.
Before we jump into what we got right, we would love to hear from you. Was there one financial decision, whether it was a big one or a small one, that you have made that has been helpful in your financial journey? Let us know in the comments below.
Let's begin with my university days. I had a strong start in my financial journey by attending Canada's Royal Military College and graduating debt-free. Now, going to military college was not an obvious choice to me. In fact, I had spent my high school years at a school for the arts majoring in theater. However, there was a recruiting center near my school and I ended up joining the reserves as a radio operator for a fun summer job. This put the military college on my radar and I realized I could get a free education plus a job once I finished school. All of this seemed like an adventure. I would see the world and hopefully do some good as part of the Canadian Forces. The financial element was just a side benefit that ultimately paid significant dividends. I graduated debt-free with a business degree, and I had a job paying the equivalent of $30,000 upon graduation. Plus, I gained relevant skills for my future job outside the military as a healthcare manager. I talked more about my time in the military in this video, which we'll link below, and all the videos that we mentioned today will be linked down in the description.
So unlike Gillian, I did not graduate university debt-free. However, when I graduated, I did open my first tax-sheltered account and start making automatic monthly deposits. This was a really huge financial commitment to me at the time, but I had it in my mind that it was a very important part of becoming an adult. In order to open the account, I had to scrape together $500 for the minimum possible deposit. And that was a lot coming out of my tiny little paycheck at the time. But then afterwards, I still had to pull together $100 every single month for the automatic withdrawals. So all in all, it was huge for me. Even though my overall savings grew very slowly over the years, it was the start of a lifelong savings habit which has served us very well. So over the years, as I earned more, I was able to increase the monthly amount of the deposit, and then eventually both of us were maxing out our tax-sheltered account every single year.
Another great decision was selling our first home and not buying again. When we moved to Singapore from Canada 7 years ago, we had a choice. We could either rent out our Toronto condo and be overseas landlords, or we could sell it.
We decided against keeping it and renting it because we didn't want to put a burden on our families to manage the property for us, and we also did not want to hire a property manager.
So we sold our condo, and this was the right decision for us because we were immediately able to put our equity straight into our investments.
So this is actually what became the basis of the wealth that we built up over the subsequent years, and it's what enabled us to retire early. Instead of our equity sitting in our primary residence, instead it's working hard for us in investments, and it's what's allowing us to travel the world.
Now, we are not against homeownership by any stretch, and whether it makes financial sense for you really depends on your local real estate market.
So not owning our primary residence made a big difference to our financial journey, but not as much as the decision that we made, which we'll get to at the end of this video. So stick around for that one.
But first, we'll continue going through the rest of the list.
Since 2013, we have not owned a car. We rely on public transit, walking, and the occasional cab to get around.
Prior to that, we owned a used car, which we purchased for the equivalent of 11,000 US dollars. We sold it when we moved to Singapore and never bought another car again.
So by not owning a car for all these years, we also saved on insurance, parking, gas, maintenance, repairs, you name it. A car is really the kind of purchase that you never stop paying for.
Instead, we lived in an urban environment that was well serviced by public transit, which cost less than $1 per ride.
In fact, with our current lifestyle, it's really hard to picture ever owning a car again.
The next great decision we made was to take over our own investments and buy low-cost index funds.
Now, we will admit there was a time when we were not confident in managing our own investments. So we ended up buying into high-fee mutual funds that ultimately did not outperform the market.
We talk more about this in a video that goes into the details of our whole investment strategy.
So once we sharpened up our financial literacy and felt comfortable creating our own strategy, we exited those managed funds and moved into low-cost index funds.
We'll talk more about the process and financial impact of exiting those funds when we talk about our money mistakes next week.
In the end, it was a great decision to take over managing our own investments because most importantly, it means we're not going to be paying high management fees for the next 30 to 40 years or longer.
Moving on with our list, as we've mentioned before, we were latecomers to the concept of tracking our expenses.
Of course, we were familiar with the ideas of tracking expenses and managing a budget, but we thought if we're doing such a great job saving money, why do we need to track every single penny?
Once we discovered financial independence, we made the decision to be more conscious of how we were spending our money. So that included tracking every expenditure. We talked more about this in our recent video all about tracking spending.
As soon as we started tracking our spending, we immediately found so many costs to cut. And in the end, in the year before we retired, we managed to save 70% of our income. And we share all the details in this video about how to save half your income.
Now let's talk about the one decision that had the biggest impact on our financial journey, and that was working overseas.
7 years ago, we relocated our lives and our careers to Singapore, which is a high-growth country that has lots of jobs and lots of opportunities. It also happens to have very low personal and business taxes.
It was a big risk to move somewhere completely new where we had no friends and no network. But moving to Singapore really helped us grow our careers and our salaries, and it also helped us hold on to more of our earnings.
The lesson that we took from this experience is consider taking a risk with your career in order to grow your wealth. That doesn't mean you need to move halfway around the world. Instead, consider moving to a high growth market within your own country, or maybe to a low tax jurisdiction. So if you want to see more of what we did right so that we could retire when I was in my 40s and Gillian was in her 30s, we recommend watching this video right here. You can go ahead and click on it now.
And if you enjoyed this video, it would help us out if you hit that like, and be sure to subscribe for a new video every Thursday. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you back next time.